Pale yolks are fine is the belief that keeps most flocks dependent and underperforming. Pale yolks are not a style choice, they are a systems diagnostic. They tell you the birds are running on dead inputs. Commercial layer feed is milled, heated, dried, and stored. It is dead processed grain. Feed it long enough and you will get the predictable result, washed out yolks and fragile birds that need constant purchased inputs to keep producing. Change the inputs and the system answers immediately. Replace dead feed with living surplus from the farm, and yolks swing to deep orange, not light orange, deep, almost red orange. That color is not a gimmick. It is the visible footprint of fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K2, and carotenoids moving through the bird and into the egg. It is proof of a diet built on the foods chickens were designed to metabolize. And when the diet is structured from what the farm already produces, it is also how you strip more than $1,000 a year out of your feed bill while producing eggs you cannot buy.
This is not theory. Beth and Shaw Doherty in Ohio have run their flock this way for decades. On a grass-fed homestead, they note, there is almost always dairy surplus: whey, buttermilk, skim milk. Feed the surplus and the yolks go deep orange. Their system has 5 elements that interlock. No gimmicks, no purchase premixes. The birds balance themselves inside a landscape that produces food for them without constant cash. The 5 elements are simple: dairy surplus, sprouted grain, fresh greens year-round, meat scraps from butchering, and root cellar vegetables. Put them together and the flock distributes its own ration. Intakes go up when biology offers abundance and commercial feed becomes a minor supplement rather than the main course. More eggs, better yolks, minimal cost. The Dohertys quantify it. A quart of milk is a significant protein supplement for 12 to 25 birds. That is not trivial. It replaces a substantial portion of their protein needs with something you already produce and often pour down the drain.
Start with how the system generates protein and fat-soluble vitamins without buying them. In spring flush, ruminants push milk volume, more than the household needs for the table, calves, fresh cheeses, and ferments. The Dohertys keep a bucket in the cool basement and pour in surplus whey, buttermilk, and skim. It clabbers, alive with bacteria and enzymes, and becomes excellent feed for chickens, pigs, dogs, and cats. In fall and winter, when hard cheeses are made, the gallons of whey and buttermilk increase again. If you maintain kefir grains, you will often have excess bubbly milk. The pattern is biological, not calendar-based. When grass is surging or when cheese-making concentrates solids, surplus appears. Redirect it. A quart shared across 12 to 25 birds delivers complete amino acids, easily digestible protein, beneficial microbes, and fat-soluble vitamins in a living matrix. No bagged ration can manufacture that. You are not adding treats. You are redirecting high-value nutrients from the compost to the flock.
When pasture stalls and insects disappear, energy and micronutrients must still move through the bird. That is where sprouted grain carries the winter. The Dohertys germinate barley in trays in the basement when greens run short. Barley wakes up quickly. When blades reach 3 to 4 inches, that mass becomes part of the grain ration. Sprouting is not decoration. It converts static starch into living tissue, increases vitamin content, activates enzymes, and makes nutrients more bioavailable. The birds respond to sprouted barley with the same urgency they show fresh summer grass. This is why winter egg production holds without cranking up commercial feed. You are feeding living greens when the landscape is dormant.
Fresh greens are not a summertime luxury. They are the foundation of yolk color and immune function year-round. In warm months, the Doherty's home flock roams roughly 5 acres, sharing rotated paddocks with pigs, sheep, and cattle. That means unlimited access to a dense mix of grasses, forbs, and legumes. 7 or 8 apple and mulberry trees scatter fruit for months, and the birds do fruitfall cleanup. This is not a pen with token grass. It is a moving edge where herbivores harvest sunlight, and chickens mine secondary growth, seeds, and dropped fruit. In winter, the logic shifts, but the principle holds. Any leaf you would eat, spinach, lettuce, kale, is also legitimate chicken feed. Set aside the less choice heads from low tunnels. Save the outer leaves of storage cabbages. Pull beets and mangoldwurzel from the root cellar and spike one on a nail in the henhouse wall. They will work at it for calories, minerals, and the behavioral need to peck. The diet remains green and varied when photosynthesis outside has slowed. Protein cannot depend on bugs that do not exist in January. Butchering season produces what the birds lost when the soil cooled: meat, fat, and offal. The Dohertys portion miscellaneous scraps into small packages, freeze them, and thaw one at a time to feed out over several days. That small, steady animal protein stream replaces the summer's grubs and worms. The response is not ambiguous: more eggs in the basket. Add table scraps and cooking surpluses, especially rendered animal fats left from meals. That is dense energy for thermoregulation in cold weather. Chickens are omnivores. Winter diets that pretend otherwise depress production and health. Root cellars and dry attics bridge the dead months not just for people, but for the flock. The Dohertys point to beets and mangoldwurzel spiked on a nail for calories, minerals, and entertainment. Sometimes beets are cooked. The outside leaves of storage cabbages bring vitamins and roughage. Carrots make sound hen food, particularly when cooked. Potatoes and their peelings too. And those gone-by winter squash sending their smell through the dry cellar still carry value. Vitamins in the flesh and fat and protein-rich seeds. This is not waste disposal. It is nutrient flow extended across seasons. Vegetables that slipped past prime for the table convert to eggs rather than compost.
Now connect the pieces. You are not eliminating commercial feed, you are demoting it. The Dohertys observe that chickens will eat as much as they want of what they want. In practice, intake averages about 4.5 ounces of wheat per day per bird, plus well under half an ounce of fish meal. If fish meal is not at hand, any high-protein analog, soy meal, chickpeas, substitutes. With daily dairy surplus, sprouted grain through winter, greens in every season, butchering scraps and root cellar vegetables, the flock balances its own ration. They eat what is needed, not what the label dictates. The biological response is visible, steady lay and deep orange yolks. If you break down what each element actually delivers, the architecture becomes obvious. Dairy surplus, whey, buttermilk, skim, kefir provides complete amino acids, beneficial microbes, and fat-soluble vitamins. It costs nothing because it already exists in the system. Sprouted grain supplies living grains in winter, maintaining production when it would otherwise sag, for pennies. Year-round greens, pasture in summer, saved leaves in winter, deliver carotenoids, minerals, and roughage, free or nearly free. Meat and offal from butchering plus table scraps replace the insect protein of warm months and cost nothing if you do your own processing. Root cellar crops, beets, carrots, potatoes, squash, carry calories, vitamins, and minerals through the colt, and the squash seeds add concentrated fat and protein. All of it is food that would otherwise be wasted or degraded. Here it stays in motion. The economics follow the biology. 2 dozen hens with 1 quart of surplus milk per day receive a substantial protein charge. Add sprouted grain, greens, butchering scraps, and root cellar vegetables, and most of the ration is home produced. What remains is a small, predictable supplement of whole grain. At roughly 4.5 ounces of wheat per bird per day, 2 dozen hens consume about 7 pounds of wheat daily. At current organic wheat prices, that is around $2 a day or $60 a month. Compare that to commercial layer ration. 2 dozen hens on bagged feed typically run about 3 pounds per bird per week, 72 pounds weekly, around 300 pounds monthly. At current organic layer prices, that is about $150 a month. The gap is $90 per month, over $1,000 per year, while the eggs get measurably better. Better is not opinion. Crack an egg from a flock on this system and the yolk is deep orange. That pigment comes from carotenoids in fresh greens. The density comes from fat-soluble vitamins carried in dairy and amplified by a varied living diet of sprouts, meat scraps, and stored vegetables. Studies comparing pasture to caged eggs quantify it. Roughly double the omega-3 fatty acids, triple the vitamin E, 7 times the beta-carotene, and higher levels of vitamins A, D, and K2. This is not marketing language. It is a direct result of feeding the biology of the bird rather than the convenience of the keeper. The color is the readout. Adoption does not require a perfect lineup on day 1. If dairy animals are already on the place, surplus exists. Collect it, let it clabber, and move it to the birds. If you do not keep dairy yet, the other elements stand on their own. Sprout grain through the winter. Save the garden's off-grade leaves and heads. Feed butchering scraps. Each element added removes another chunk of dependence on the bag. The reason this holds together is not luck or thrift. It is system design. On a grass-fed homestead, sunlight becomes forage. Forage becomes milk, meat, and manure, and energy cascades from organism to organism with a net gain for the whole. The Dohertys state their aim clearly: rejuvenate land while producing food for home and farm. The flock is not optimized for maximum eggs per hen or the tightest feed conversion ratio in isolation. It is optimized to fit a nutrient cycle that feeds the household and improves soil. Chickens eat what would otherwise be waste, lay nutrient-dense eggs, and drop manure that drives the garden. Nothing stands alone. Nothing is wasted.
The timeline of results mirrors biology. In the first weeks, birds become more active and engaged at the feeder. Living food triggers foraging behavior. Within weeks, yolks darken from pale to light orange to deep orange as carotenoids and fat-soluble vitamins move through the bird. Within months, purchased feed volume falls because the system is supplying most needs. Within a year, health patterns change: steadier lay, gentler molts, longer productive lives. The Dohertys describe a good farmhand laying an egg every day or two, steadily, from sometime in February into November or December, and continuing that for at least 2 or 3 years. That is the long arc of a flock fed from a landscape rather than a bag. This reframes the bird. In a coop fed on commercial ration, a hen is a monthly bill. In an integrated, grass-fed system, a hen is an asset. She converts surplus milk, sprouted grain, greens, butchering scraps, and cellar crops into eggs with deep orange yolks and manure that grows the next crop. The system, once established, runs with very little purchased input. It keeps running year after year because it is anchored to biological timing: spring milk flush, winter storage, butchering cycles, pasture growth, not the calendar or a marketing schedule. The Dohertys point out that the integrated flock's contribution to the farm economy is significant, even without counting egg sales. Value is not measured at the carton. It is measured by how effectively the flock closes loops, turns what would be waste into food, and builds soil and resilience over years and decades. That is the position you occupy when you stop treating chickens as pets with a feed habit and start operating a system. You are not buying performance, you are managing energy flow. Pale yolks are a symptom of a broken loop. Deep orange yolks are the visible outcome of a living ration, a landscape in motion, and a keeper who understands cause, biological response, and long-term consequence.